Support and resistance. I would say that this is one of the most important skill sets to really master if you want to succeed in the stock market. And in this video, we're talking about the secrets of support and resistance. What exactly is a support and resistance? How do we use it? And it's everything that you need to know if you want to use support and resistance, which is important. I mean, you can use like all kinds of indicators, price action, candlesticks, but for me, right, I personally just focus on support and resistance, which is very key before I even look at all the other things. And this is what I do. I normally draw my horizontal support and resistance lines right away on the chart or any single stock, whether it's Singapore or US stock, so that when I draw these lines, I can get a quick opinion on where we are in relation to those lines and give you a very, very big picture of what to do, right? So in this video, make sure you stay all the way to the end if you want to know everything about support and resistance and how it can help you to time your entry and exit better. So this is this video about support and resistance secrets, all right? How to profit in bull and bear markets. Hey guys, Joey here, top tier advisor, stockbroker in Philips Securities, and let's go ahead to dive into what we'll be covering, right? So here's what we cover, right? What is a support and resistance, and how do we draw it effectively? So many times I see people, drawing horizontal lines or many lines all over their chart. There's just so many lines that you have no idea what to do with the stock, right? So I'll show you how to do it and draw it effectively, so that you kind of like make sense, all right? And how do you, position yourself based on those lines that you have drawn, all right? So we look at reversal as well, all right? From support and resistance, we look at the break of support and resistance. When is it most likely to reverse? When is it most likely to break? That's what we'll cover as well, right? So if you like this video, guys, if you found some value at the end of it, or maybe right now, go ahead to give me a like or smash the subscribe button as well. That will definitely help out the channel, and thank you so much for doing this, right? So what is a support and resistance? So very quickly, resistance and support level basically is just what we call like a horizontal price level, whereby it touches many times and it either rebounds or it comes back down, right? So right now we're looking at resistance level. You can see that there is this red line, horizontal red line that connects all the highs, right? So this is like a price level. It touches, it comes back down, it touches, comes back down. We call it like R1, R2, and R3, right? So it's a horizontal price level whereby many times it touches, it comes back down. It just shows that sellers are there. There's a lot of selling pressure. You want to be careful whenever it rebounds to that level, because that's where selling can come back again, all right? Unless we break through it, good, that's where we can see more upside. But most of the time, when we approach these levels or even near it, all right, that's where we want to see, you want to be careful, because that's where profit taking can actually happen, all right? So that's like a resistance level. A support level, on the other hand, is what we call like a support, right? Supporting prices. So prices is normally above this support line, all right? This is horizontal green line. So it touches, it rebounds, it touches, it rebounds. You can see S1, S2, S3. So many points that we have touching that line, the stronger is the support, right? That's where if we actually near this horizontal price level again, the very high chance that it might rebound, right? Based on what we have seen over the past few months or few years, right? So we'll look at some case studies as well onto how to draw these lines and what has happened, and how to actually draw all these horizontal red and also green lines. Okay, so before we talk about the case study, let's go ahead to understand a bit more on how to draw it, right? So we look at the big picture, right? So we're going to look at a year or more, right? You don't want to just zoom in, right? So most of the time, let me just show you what I mean. Most of the time people will just like this is Apple right here, all right, and most of the time people will just like zoom in into a very close period like this, and it's like $167 right now, and look at a very short period like a month or a few weeks, and it doesn't really show anything. You can't really tell the trend or the price level in perspective. So you just zoom out a little bit, right? Just zoom out in perspective, look at the big picture, right? Just zoom out. So you can zoom out right here. So once you zoom out, you can see that's where we have more data coming in. So you can be like a year or two, maximum about 2-3 years. You don't have to go like 5 or 10 years. I mean, like this is like too far away. You don't go so far, right? Because it's like a bit too far out, right? But look at the past 1 or 2 years right over here, and then you can go on to draw the lines. So I'll show you how to do it, right? But first thing first, you want to zoom out. You don't want to just focus on like only like a few days or like a few weeks, all right? So let's move on to the next point, right? You want to go for the low-hanging fruits, right? So go for those lines, right? For those lines that is really easy, right? It's like a no-brainer, right? Once you see it, maybe you don't even need to draw it. It's very obvious there's a resistance level, because it touches like 2 or 3 times, it comes back down. Obviously there's a resistance, or maybe like a support level, right? It touches like 2 times or 3 times, it rebounds. That is a support level. So don't make all these like minor little lines all over the place. You don't have to do that. Just focus on the big picture. Go for the low hanging fruits, the lines which are the most obvious. So you need like 2 points at least to form a line. Does it make sense, right? So we need at least 2 points, but if you have like 3 or 4 or 5 or like many points, then even better. Then it's like very obvious that that is the line. Just draw it, is correct. All right, so go for the low hanging fruits, all right, and have it there first before you dive deeper into see whether there are any like intermediate or many near-term support or resistance lines in between. All right, so get the best fit line with the most points touching. Right, the more points, the better it is. Draw that line straight away, right? And you want to give a bit more priority for the psychological level. So levels like the $100, the $10, the $1. These are all like full whole numbers, right? And we give a little bit more weight to it if it coincides with like a support or even like a resistance level. All right, yeah, so focus on levels whereby the support turn resist. I think this is key, right? This is what most people do not do, right? So, I mean, what we covered just now was just, it touches many times, it rebounds, it's support, if it's a resistance, it touches many times, it comes back down, it's a resistance. But what about, if we were to break that level? So, for example, we have the resistance line right here, and if we were to break that resistance line, take note that there's a very high chance that this line, this resistance, will now turn to become like a support, right? So give a bit more weight to that, and right, and when we draw these lines, we kind of focus on this, whereby support turn resistance on a breakdown, or resistance turns to a support on a breakout, right? So we look at some case studies as well, so not to worry. All right, so let's go ahead to just dive into the chart before I draw these lines for you. We look at a few stocks as well to see how we can draw these lines. Okay, so let me go ahead to show you how to draw the horizontal support and resistance line, right? So this is Apple, one of those really popular US stocks. So let's see if we can draw any of those lines, right? So firstly, we want to focus on the low-hanging fruits, the one that's really easy, all right? So resistance would be where prices, it touches many times, it comes back down. So obviously, I think that would be a line right here. So resistance would be red in color. So like a ceiling is red in color, a support would be green in color, which is below the current price. So it's a bit more simple, right? So this is definitely a resistance level. You can see we kind of like touch about like 1, 2, 3, 4 times. We neared it again, we came back down. So around, I would say the 180. All right, so just give a little bit of leeway. I mean, some might say that is it like 182 or is it 183? Let's just say 185, right, or 180. That doesn't really matter, right? So just give a little bit of leeway. All right, want to have the line touches more points. The more points that actually touches that line, that is the best. So we give a bit more weight if it touches many. We can shift the line accordingly to where it touches. So in this case, you can see it touches quite a lot of points right here around the 183. All right, and nears it as well. So I think 180 or 185, that's where we can potentially see selling again, because that is like a resistance level. Let's see if we can draw another support line. So I think there would be another line right here. You can see this is around the 150. So I'll just put it in green in color, because obviously price is about 167 right now. So we are, this line is below the price, so it's like green in color. Is what we call a support level. But why do I draw this line? So look at the big picture first, right? You can see that over the past 8 to 10 months, right, we have seen this is what, okay, this is the 150. So 150 is a psychological level as well. So anything like a full number, the 100, the 150, the 200, these are psychological numbers. We want to give a bit more weight to it, and let's see if there are many factors pointing to us drawing this line. So as I say, you want to focus on levels whereby support turn resistance and resistance turn support. What do I mean? Look at this right here. You can see that right over here, this was somewhere in like March 2022, February as well. We kind of like neared this line right here, and we rebounded something like what we call a support, right? So it's a bit of support right here as well. You can see we tried to hold above it before we started to see a rebound all the way back up to that 185. So that's what we call like a support level. So that was like a support, all right, and then we kind of broke down this support level right here. This was somewhere around like May. When we broke this support, you can see that yes, turned to what we call like a resistance. So we kind of like, let me just show you what I mean. All right, we swing down, we swing back up, right? When we swing back up, you can see that this support actually turned to be what we call a resistance level, right? So that 150 turned from a support we've been holding above for like 5 to 6 months. We broke down and it became a resistance whereby we touch it, we couldn't get back up, and we came back down again, and we swing up again, swing down, and you see right over here we actually attempted to break that resistance level. So it was support, it became resistance, and we attempted to break this resistance and started to see a bit of a price rally, right? So this is pretty much how we draw it. All right, so let me just go to draw very quickly for you. All right, 150, all right, and also that 185, right, 180, 185, right? So let's see if you can draw one more line right here. I think this would be another line. You can see this is at the 130 level. You can see we kind of like touched, rebounded, all right, and also right over here you can see that this is just somewhere around 2021 May, all right. We were actually consolidating below it. Look at this right here, consolidating, so there's a bit of resistance. We broke up and it became like kind of like the support level as it's traded upward, right over here. All right, look at this right here. So it kind of like fits quite nicely as well. You can see a little bit of resistance, support, we broke down, consolidated below, and then went up. All right, so that's where we can use the past as well, all right, in terms of drawing these lines. All right, so yeah, this is pretty much for Apple. I think I will pretty much draw this line right here. These are the 3 key lines that you have, because we can go further and we can see what we can draw. I think maybe one line over here as well. You can see a little bit of support, went up, we came back down, we neared it, rebounded. So a little bit of support maybe around the 100 level. We're going to give a bit of leeway. This is the past. You can see went up, down, consolidated. So a bit of support right here. We broke the 100. Look at it. So 100 would be a psychological support level. When we broke this level, you can see started to trade all the way. All right, hit a bit of resistance. We came back down right over here. So 100 resistance is a psychological level, and went all the way up, it came back down, we retraced, and it became like the support. So that's how we can draw the lines as well, right? So why would we want to draw like this 100 level? Because I mean, like so far away, right? So yeah, we can not draw it as well, we can delete it, but we can draw it as well. But the thing is that, you know, if we do break like certain support level, like in this case the 130 would be like the support, right? So why do we draw like any lines lower than that? Well, because if it does break the 130, some people might ask, where can we potentially head to? What is the next downside can we head to? And that's where we can, you know, draw these lines, right? The next support level based on the past data to see where we can potentially head to, all right, before some bargain hunting or some buying pressure comes back again, right? So that's how we can trade. But you know, if it's too far away, all right, right now since we have moved up, we can actually just remove it. All right, we don't have to look at that line. Okay, so that's for Apple, right? Pretty much how to draw this line. So let's take a look at a few more case studies, right? And then we move on into like how do we make use of these lines for entry and exit. Okay, so this would be Coke, all right, Coca Cola. I think one of those really fundamentally strong stocks in the US market, trading at about 509. All right, so let me go to draw these lines for you to show you what I mean. How do we do it? All right, and you can go into practice as well. All right, so let me just go to draw. I think this would be a very, very strong resistance level. You can see about the 640 level. Look at this right here. We kind of like neared it over here. We came back down. We neared it a few times, and just somewhere around in June, just a few months back, we touched it. A couple of bearish candles right here, upper shadow, higher wicks, long upper wicks kind of a candle, whereby, you know, it kind of like went up, sellers came back and pushed prices down. All right, especially we sit right at this resistance level. That's where you want to be careful. That's where we can actually see some selling coming back again. So let me just change this to red in color, since it is like a resistance line. All right, so let me just draw it right here. So this is like a resistance. Okay, and it's about 640. All right, so that's a very, very easy level to draw, low-hanging fruits. All right, and what about those levels whereby, you know, support turn resistance and resistance turn support? I think one over here, you can see that you kind of rebounded here. So I think there should be another line right here, all right, around the 440. All right, look at this right here. You can see, right, we kind of like rebounded and rebounded. So it's about 440. All right, and in this case now we are seeing candles. So you can see in this case right over here, it was candles whereby we have a long upper shadow. It just shows that sellers came back at the day end and pushed prices down. But if you see a candle that is a long lower shadow, that means look at this black line right here. So long lower shadow just means it opens, it went all the way down, and buyers came back and pushed prices all the way back up, right? So when we see this, you know, candles with long lower shadow right here at the bottom at the support, look at this, right? So let me just show it for you. You can see we saw it one time here. Let me just put it in green color. Another time here as well. Another time here as well. We kind of went down. Right? So about 3 times we saw these candles, this bullish reversal candles right at this support level. So 440 would be a really good support for now, I would say, right? If it nears this level, I think there's a very, very high chance of it actually rebounding, right? Because we saw a couple of bullish candles and yes, been holding really well. And of course, let me just change this to green in color, right? Green in color, right? And look at this right here. So as I said, we want to focus on levels whereby, you know, support turn resistance, resistance turn support. So it is the support right now, but before it even became the support, it was actually the resistance. If you look back just a little bit, you can see that right over here, it was actually the resistance level whereby, you know, you can see we touch, we came back down. Let's put it in red, all right? So we kind of like touch it, we came back down, we kind of like neared it. I mean, we're just trading below it for like May 2021 to about November 2021. And look at this right here, when we break this level, all right, the 440 level, right, was a really good move up. So resistance now became the support. And of course, it went up, we found resistance, and we are pretty much back down again to this support whereby we are consolidating. All right, so this is pretty much how I draw the support and resistance line. I think I think all of you would have this as well. I think we can have another look at it. This is really simple. I think look at this right here. We can have another support line. So sometimes it's really clear because each time it touches like a price level, many times it rebounds. Look at it, 1, 2, 3, it rebounds. So definitely you want to have this support level about 380. That is a clear support level to have it. You definitely want to go for that, right? You don't want to draw. You want to go like in between. I think some people might say, should I like go in between? And what about like this like, is it like resistance? Is it a resistance? What about here? Is this like a little support? I mean, you can draw it if you want. Like if you can draw this line, it's a little support. You can draw another resistance here, and probably here you can see it's like a bit of support. And if you do that, right, you have just so many lines here. What's the point, right? So just go for the low-hanging fruits, right? You want to just dive. You don't want to go in between and care about those little points, but it just touches 1 or 2 times and it's not very, very clear, right? You want to remove those lines, right? So go for the easy Q, right? Don't want to have so many lines. All right, so let me just remove all this. Right? This is forget about this. Forget about this. All right, forget about this. This, all right, this right here is good enough. This is good enough, right? You don't want to go in between. Alright, if you want to get this, draw it, alright, maybe very light color, light shaded color, just to guide you that could be a temporary resistance level. That's fine, but I think just go for the low hanging fruits. I think this is pretty much how I would draw this support and resistance. So I think one more. Let me see if we can draw one more right away here. Let me see. Okay, I think that would be good as well. Okay, let me just draw it. I think we have another line here. Alright, and I think this can be drawn as well, because why? Look at this, right? So it went up. It went up, all right. It was like the support level. Look at this right here. Support went up, and we were like consolidating for like about 2 or 3 months, and we broke down. You can see when we broke down, support turned resistance, we were actually consolidating here. So let me just show it for you, right? Swing down, up, swing up, down, all right, and then we broke up again, and then we kind of like consolidate at a higher phase. Eventually, we broke down, and now we are kind of like below this line right here. So that would be like kind of like a bit of support turn resistance. I think we can draw this line. That is fine right here. Right, so you can see this is about 509. This immediate resistance would be at about the 535 to 540. I think that could work as well. All right, that could be a line. We don't do anything else. I think that would be a kind of like a support and resistance line. So I pretty much just drawn this line for Coca Cola. Let's see if we can draw, all right, for another stock. Okay, so another stock, very quick one, Applied Materials, stock code AMAT. Let me just draw it for you, all right, and I could say that would be a resistance level. You can see touch came back down, so it's only like 1 point, but that's like the high. You can draw that, all right, and there would be another line right here. I think this is quite obvious. It was like the resistance. You can see you touch 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and we came back down, and somewhere around like November 2021, where we broke, you can see resistance turns support. So we give a bit more weight, right, to it if it is a breakup, when resistance turns support, or it breaks down and the support turns to a resistance. So you can like went up, you can see supported above 1, 2, 3, 4, it rebounded, and of course the market started to weaken, and we broke down again. And now when it broke down, the support became a resistance again. You can see, right? Touch and we came down, we touched and we came down again, all right, a couple of touches and it came down. So yeah, that could be a line to draw about the 145 level. Let's see if we can draw one more, all right. And so just go for the low hanging fruits, the one that is really easy. I think that could be another line right here as well. You can see a couple of rebounds, it touches. All right, let me just shift it a little bit down, right? So yeah, I think somewhere around the 120 to 125, you can see right here. Okay, let me just put this black in color, right? So it touches 1, 2, 3, all right, you can see rebounded many times, and eventually we kind of broke down. All right, when we broke this firmly, we broke the 120, 123 support. You can see retraced back up, we neared it, and it became the resistance, and we sold off again. Right, so that is another line to draw, definitely about 120, all right, 120 to 123. All right, and let's see if you can draw one more line right here about the, I think about the 100. Definitely one of these lines. I think this would be the 100 level here. Okay, so that would be kind of like a support level. Why? So I say 100 would be like a psychological support level. So let me just turn this to green in color, all right, green in color, because Now price is just above it. So you can see we kind of broke the the 100 level, went down and we consolidated briefly. We actually found a little bit of support right here. Oh, look at this, right? So this was a support level whereby we touched, you can see it was holding in 2020, right? 2020, we rebounded from it, and same thing, we touched it and rebounded, right? So about the 80 to 82, I think that's like the support. Thankfully we kind of like traded here from 80 to about 100, and we managed to climb back up above the 100. So 100 would now turn to be what we call resistance turn support level. So that is pretty much how I would draw these lines, right? The 100, right? So yeah, I think we have pretty much just covered how to draw this line on 3 stocks. So let's move back into the slides to see what do we do, right? After drawing all these lines, what do we do? What do we make out of it, right? How do we use these lines to kind of like time our entry and exit, right? Whether is it a potential reversal or a break? Let's just go back to the slides and discover it first. All right, so now that we have drawn the lines on like the stocks there, right? You guys have an idea of how to draw it, right? How do we go for the low-hanging fruits? We don't have to, look at the very small data, like a few weeks, a few months. No, or we kind of like zoom out, and after we go for the best fit line that touches the most point, and we focus on areas or the lines or the price level whereby support turn resistance or resistance turn support. So we have done kind of like a few case studies. We'll go back to those stocks again in a bit, but before we do that, let's go ahead to the next one, which will be a reversal. So whenever we draw these lines, there could be 2 things that happen. One of it would be a reversal. That means, as I say, for a support level, it touches, it rebounds, it touches, it rebounds. So that's what could happen again. There could be a potential reversal as it nears that support level again. That means it's going to near it, and it might start to potentially rebound from it again. All right, or for a resistance level, it could kind of like near it and it comes back down. So it could near it and it could be a reversal back down again. So how do we tell whether is it likely to reverse or maybe to break that level? So we're going to dive into that. All right, so basically, right, when price has pushed too fast into a support or resistance, right? That means either too bullish or too bearish, right? For example, we have like what we call a resistance level. It touches many times and came back down, all right? And right now we are seeing like prices, very strong bullish green candles coming out, and we see a couple of green candles pop, and prices hits really fast, very bullishly into that resistance level, right? So when that happens, right, too fast, right, and it's too bullish, that is where most likely that resistance level will hold, and that's where as it approaches that resistance, we can see selling again. So I'll show you some case studies later in a bit, right? But that's what I mean, all right? And you could also take into account the trend of the stock, right? So a reversal move is in the same direction as the trend. So for example, when we have like a resistance level and it is pretty much in a downtrend, so I'll not talk too much about trend, right? But basically in an uptrend or downtrend, we look at levels whereby we form higher highs or higher lows and all that, all right? And if it's like in a downtrend and we have this resistance level whereby it touches many times and comes back down, that is where, all right, it's very high chance for prices to also, hit there and see selling and reversals back down, right? So I'll show you what I mean in a bit, right? So let me just go back to the stocks, right? We have Apple, we have Coke and AMAT. Let me just choose a few of them just to see if we can find anything and where can we potentially see reversal from those lines that we have drawn. So this is Apple right here. I mean, we have drawn the horizontal support and resistance lines, right? You can see it's trading about 167, and we have drawn this resistance line right here about 180. So that would become like a resistance level, and if we were to head to this level, that is where high chance, right, high potential likely that we might actually see selling coming back. So let me just go to draw for you. I think this would be the zone. So when we have a horizontal line, some of you might like to draw a rectangle or like the zone. That's fine as well, but normally I would like to have a line. This is a very clear line. It's very clean. We don't want so many zones, but we can have the line, and then from that line we can go to draw what we call the selling zone, or the zone whereby selling can actually come back again. So I will draw this zone right over here. Let me just draw it for you first before I explain to you. So this is like what we call the selling zone. Based on this red line, based on these resistance lines we have drawn, we can actually draw this zone, right? Why do I draw this zone? Because you can see that many times we become like near it, we came down, and of course it's based on this resistance line. So as we approach this zone, right, this zone maybe from like 175 to 180, 175 to 180, you can see we kind of like came down, we neared it, came down, and in fact, I think just last week we kind of like neared it, and we came down. So when we approach this selling zone, right, there is a very, very high chance of reversal because we have actually touched it many times and came back down. So that's where we can see like reversal actually happening. And as I mentioned, how do we tell if it's a very, very high chance of a reversal? If it's like too bullish, that means we see a resistance right here. It has been holding since like December, I would say about 8 to 9 months already. All right, many times it touched and came back down. So when we are too bullish, right, just pump heading 1-2 weeks, just heading towards that level really fast, there's a very high chance of a reversal as we hit to that level again. So let's take a look at how you can see it right here. You can see that this is the where it was trading previously, right, at around 150. So as I say, 150 was a support. All right, we saw a really strong move here. Look at this, right, for 1-2 weeks, we saw really good bullish candles here. All right, look at this, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bullish candles days. It just forms higher highs and higher lows as it really rebounds back up. But as it hits to the level, you can see it rejected, right, push away from that resistance level and came back down, right? So when we push really strong, really fast, 1-2 weeks into a resistance that's been holding, that is where there's a very high chance of it actually potentially reversing back down. You can see right here, same thing, right? A couple of bullish candle, 1, 2, all right, pop, and then we hit to that zone, it came back down. All right, and let's see again over the recently right here. So you can see, right, it was quite a good move up. You can see when we broke this 150. As I said, when we broke this 150, it's quite a good positive move because 150 was a support, it became resistance, and it's obviously the resistance when we broke up is a psychological level. We saw a couple of good moves, right? Green bullish candle, it gap up, another green candle, and you can see over the past 2-3 weeks, it just pop, it went up, and it was quite a bullish move up, right? So bullish move up, too bullish, too fast, too green a candle, it approaches a selling zone or that a very, very key resistance. That's where you want to be careful. That's where you want to also think about taking some profit. Just get out. I mean, if you like got in here at 130 or 140 or 150, you have caught the upside. It's good to take steps to protect your profits, and not only that, also think about getting out, locking in some profits as it approach that selling area, because that's where selling can come back again if it moves there too fast. Does it make sense? All right, so that's the first area. That's what I mean by too bullish. Okay, next one will be Coca Cola. Right, so we have drawn the horizontal support and resistance lines just now. All right, and I would say that this company is pretty much in an uptrend, right, over the long term. Right, how do we tell that? We can look at over the past few years, and we can see that as it forms higher lows, so we can actually draw what we call an upward sloping. Look at this right here. This is an upward sloping channel support line. Let me just put it in green in color. You can see that as it kind of retrace back down, we find a bit of support and it rebounds back up. So connecting all the lows, so you can see first low, the low. So as it moves over the past 1 to 2 years, it forms higher lows, and we have this line right here that connects all the lows, forming higher lows, and that's pretty much a good uptrend, right? So we don't think about buying stocks like this, but where do we want to think about buying stocks like this? That is after, right, drawing our horizontal support and resistance level. So we have done that, right? So let's see where can we potentially think about getting in. So in an uptrend, we want to think about buying, or catching the reversal as it approaches a very, very key support level. So support level, as I say, in an uptrend, it would most likely hold, right? Because it's an uptrend, it touches a support many times, it rebounds from it. There's a very high chance for it to rebound again. So based on drawing this horizontal support and resistance lines, we can gauge where are the best areas, the best zones, the highest probability zones to catch the reversal upside zones, right, to get in, right? And yeah, that's pretty much what we have drawn, right? So I would say that this line we have drawn, I mentioned that would be the $440, right? That would be a really key support. You can see, as I say, we saw a couple of bullish reversal candles here. So if we do near this zone, so now we're talking about a reversal from a support. Previously it was like Apple is a reversal from a resistance because we pushed too fast, and that's where selling can come back. But now we are talking about a reversal from a support level, and I kind of like added into, we're talking about like an uptrend as well, which is a good thing, because an uptrend reversal towards, as we approach the support, it's a very high chance for it to rebound back up. So the support level will be right here at about 440. So as we approach this zone, anything from 440 to 460, 480, I think that is potentially where buying pressure can come back again. That's where you can time your entry. So let me just go to draw this. So it was like red in color because of the resistance. Let me change it to green in color right here. Does it make sense? All right, so that is where, after drawing this green support line. You can see as we approach this zone, anything from 440, 460, 480, of course I'm not too sure whether it will go down there for you to buy, but if it does approach this buying area, this buying zone in this green area right here, there's a very high chance for buyers to start coming back up. It's a very good opportunity if you're going for the long term to start accumulating, right, to get in on dips, to catch the rebound, to really get in at attractive prices. All right, so that's how, by drawing the support and resistance lines, all right, it allows you to know where are the levels you can start thinking about getting. All right, when we hit too fast into a support or resistance, that's a very high chance of it kind of rebounding from it. So right now we might actually consolidate here. You can see as we consolidate here, up, down. So we might kind of hit quite fast into it, or it might just go up a little bit and come back down again. But each time we near it again, there's a very high chance for it to rebound back up, especially if we do see quite a strong bearish move down. All right, look at this right here, it's a bearish move down. Look at this right here, bearish move down, very weak candle. All right, and we kind of rejected the support. So when we see a very bearish move down, very high chance that support, that's where buying pressure can come back quite fast as well. That's where a potential reversal can happen. So we have pretty much covered the reversal, all right, at this support and resistance. That means it approaches like a support, there's a high chance of it rebounding from it, and if it approaches a resistance level, there's a high chance of it actually kind of nearing it and coming back down. So that's like a reversal. But what about a break, right? So what about a break of a support and resistance? That means it kind of approaches it, even though many times it touches, it comes back down, but now it breaks higher. It breaks, right? It breaks the level that many times it came back down. It did not break this time. Now it breaks and it starts moving higher, right? So if you look at a break of the resistance and even a break of a support level, whereby we might see more downside. How do we tell whether is it likely to break or not, right? So let's move on, right? So we're going to take into account the trend of the stock. So very briefly just now, I feel like how do we tell whether it's an uptrend, all right? So right now, we're going to look at the trend as well. So if it is in an uptrend, all right, so uptrend, that's good. We want to think about getting in if it approaches some of those support levels like I talked about just now, or if it actually breaks a resistance level by touch many times. But if it breaks that level, all right, it's an uptrend. That's where there's a potential for this stock to actually push higher. So this is Apple again, and let's see whether is there a potential for it to actually break that resistance level that we talk about, right? So many times we touch it, we came back down, but doesn't mean that we will never break it, right? We can actually break it like the next month, the next year, nobody knows. But right now there is actually selling that comes back from it. So when we actually break it, what happens? So you can see that as we trade towards it, so how do we tell whether there's a high chance for it to break or not break? So as I say, if we are too bullish heading into that resistance, high chance of a reversal. But if we actually kind of consolidate, so right now we see a bit of profit taking, it came back down. But if we do see a bit of consolidation right here, it might push up and down again. And we see what we call a little bit of a higher low. I mean, it consolidates slowly. After some profit taking, it consolidates slowly. It forms higher lows, all right, as prices move up gently, and it approaches that resistance level, the 180 to 185. Then there is where there could be a high chance of it actually attempting to break that resistance level. So we see this, right? But if it just same thing, just go up really fast, a few days, a few good bullish candles, it just goes up fast like what we see over here, then we might see a reversal. But if we come trade slowly, it consolidates gently, heading towards the resistance. That is where, as it trades lower, you can see it rebounds, trades lower, rebounds. Buyers are kind of coming back to just bargain hard and push prices higher towards that resistance level. And we see that, right, there's a good chance of it potentially potentially breaking that resistance level. Of course, we want to wait for a clear break. We don't want to second guess whether it will break or not break. But if we do see a clear break, that means prices kind of breaking that 180, it goes to 185, 186, 187, and it just starts to break up. And of course, the volume looks strong as well. That could be a really good chance of it pushing higher, and that's where the uptrend can continue even further. But before we see that, we don't want to second guess, because you can actually just hit there, it might see selling and it might come back down again. So we'll wait for firm confirmation by looking at a really good close or over the next few days. And when it breaks, we're going to stay above, all right, that new support level, because when it breaks, right, as I say, the resistance will turn support. So we want to stay above that new support level. That could give a bit more confirmation. So I think some of you might ask, let's say if it breaks a resistance level and we are pretty much at an all-time high, how do we know what is the next higher target? I mean, we cannot look at the past. For example, like for Apple, you look at the past, there's like nothing at the left side because we are pretty much at an all-time high. So how do we know what is the next higher target when we are already at an all-time high? Good question, right? So how do we do that is that we can kind of like project the target. Of course, there's nothing to look at in the past because we're at all-time high, but we can project the target such that, look at this right here. So this would be like the consolidation range. We have traded from about 150 to about that 180, right? As I mentioned, this was like the range, right? This was the previous, or I mean the current consolidation range from about 150 to 180. So if we were to break this 180, as I say, we want to see a firm break or prices holding above the 180 level. If we do see that, then we can kind of like extrapolate, all right, and project this range all the way up to the next higher range, maybe from like 180 to about the 210 to 220. That could be the next higher ups, like the next target that we can look at. That's what we do, all right? I mean, if it's an all-time high, it breaks a certain level, you can kind of project the targets just by using the current consolidation range. Okay, Coca Cola here. So as I mentioned, it's a bit of an uptrend. We have higher lows over the past 1-2 years, and we are seeing a bit of resistance right around the 540 level. You can see a couple of touches came back down. So when we break this level, so right now, as I say, we are still trading below, but when we break this level, we want to see a good close above this resistance level, and we do see that, all right, this resistance will turn to a support, and that's where we can project our targets higher, right, to where? To the next resistance level, which is pretty much the line that we have already drawn, right? So as I mentioned, when we draw all these lines, it kind of like gives us an idea of where we can potentially head to if we were to break up or break down. It gives us an idea. It's not just for fun, right? So when we break this level, I think potentially we might see a move up all the way to maybe 600 to that 640, because 640 is where selling can actually come back again. We have seen many touches and came down, so that's where it could be a good target, right? So now we have pretty much talked about like a resistance level and a break of that resistance level whereby the upside can continue further. All right, so back to the case studies on applied materials, stock code AMAT. Right, when we draw this horizontal lines just now, so you can see that we draw this line, the $100 psychological support level. Over the past like 1 month plus, we have been holding above it. You can see 1, 2, 3, we rebounded, and now we are just above the $100 level. So there is actually a potential. I'm not saying they will break down, but there is actually a potential that we might break down right below the $100 level, right? And we do break down, as I say, if we break the 100, we go to like 99, 98, 97, and we stay below, there could be a chance of prices actually heading lower to the next support, right? Based on the previous line that we've drawn, I think that would be the support level. You can see right here about that 80 to 83 level. That is pretty much the downside move that can happen. So we'll talk about like the break up, but same thing, right? When we break a support level, all right, especially like in a downtrend, right, that's where there's a high chance of it actually potentially going lower. So for AMAT, let's take a look at the trend. I mean, since we're looking at a trend right now, you can see that we are pretty much in a downtrend. Why? As I say, when we see in an uptrend, it's like higher lows, but in a downtrend, we have what we call lower highs. That means this was the high, all right, the high, all right, the high, and the high. You can see that as we move over the past like 8 to 10 months, we've been forming lower highs. That means the highs get lower and lower. And in fact, we can also draw what we call kind of like a downward sloping resistance level. Is a channel resistance level whereby it connects the highs and forming lower highs. So it's pretty much the downtrend. So if we do go or break that 100, that is where you want to be careful, because that's where selling can actually come back again. All right, but as I say, we don't want to second guess whether it will break the support or not, because only when it happens, then that's where we can see downside. But if not, we can actually still be supported above it, like what we're seeing right now. It might just consolidate above, and it might just like move up and swing down, swing up, swing down. It might just consolidate here, and eventually there might be some turn or reversal in the trend. Might start to push back up again, and might retest the previous resistance level about the 120 to 123. We see that is where we could see a firmer reversal back up. Does it make sense? Right, so that is for applied materials. Pretty much covered in terms of a potential breakdown. All right, so same thing, you can break up, you can break down. If it's a break up, it's a resistance. If it's a breakdown, that's where we break down a support level. Alright guys, so there we have it. We have pretty much come to the end of this video. So I hope you now have a clearer picture of support and resistance, right? The secrets of support and resistance, how do we draw it? So let me just do a quick recap of what we have covered in this video. We have looked at a few US stocks as a case study, so I hope you get a better idea. Alright, so we have kind of like draw the horizontal support and resistance lines. As I mentioned, we're going to get the big picture. We zoom out, we look at the best fit line, the points, the lines that touches the most points. Alright, focus on levels, so by support, turn resistance, and vice versa as well. Alright, and we look at reversals. We look at reversal, that means, if it hits towards a resistance many times, it nears, it comes back down, and if we hit there, very bullishly over the next few weeks or next few days, that's where potentially we might see a reversal. Same thing for support. If we hit towards the support very bearishly, we might potentially see a reversal back up from it again. Alright, so that's where we have looked at the case studies as well. Alright, and we look at a breakout as well. So in an uptrend, there's a high chance for it to break out upwards. So if that happens, we're going to wait for a clear confirmation, alright, of prices really going and breaking above that resistance and staying above, alright, and that's where we can potentially push higher. Same thing, when it breaks down in a downtrend, that is where we can see selling coming back, right? That's where you want to have a plan to get out if you're holding on to it, because we can potentially hit lower. So that's like a breakdown of a support level, especially in a downtrend. You want to be careful as well, right? And how do we know how low it can go? That's where we can look at the next support level, right? The next lower support level that it can potentially hit to as a downside target. Alright, so yes, this is pretty much the video on support and resistance secrets. I hope you like this video, and if you do find some value in this video on the case studies, make sure you smash the like button, give me a like, that will really help out the channel, and of course smash the subscribe button as well if you've not yet done so that you will not miss out on any videos like this. Right, so let me know what's the biggest takeaway in this video. Comment below what's your biggest takeaway, and I'll do my best to answer to each and every of your comments. Right, so Joey here. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.